She was only the receptionist until she translated for the millionaire Sheikh, who spoke Arabic, and saved the day. Chloe Miller held her pen firmly as the shouts echoed through the lobby of the Grand Roosevelt. Sheikh Jassim Al-Fayed was gesturing violently in Arabic, surrounded by panicked executives who couldn't understand a single word he was saying. The middle-aged man, wearing traditional Arabic attire with golden details, pointed furiously at the documents scattered on the marble table. Chloe immediately recognized every word coming out of his mouth. It was the specific Aleppo dialect, the same one her Syrian grandmother had taught her on the silent nights of her childhood in the Astoria neighborhood in Chicago. "Please, Your Excellency, let's resolve this calmly," pleaded Gregory Hayes, the construction company's executive director, with beads of sweat running down his forehead. The Sheikh kept shouting, and Chloe understood his words perfectly. He was saying he had been deceived, that the numbers didn't add up, that the Americans were thieves disguised as honest businessmen. Her hands trembled as she held the reception papers, pretending she didn't understand a thing. She had promised the hotel management 3 years ago when she got the job that she would never reveal her origins. Manager Arthur Penhaligon had made it clear that Arab employees weren't well regarded by some important guests. She needed the job to support her teenage daughter and care for her sick mother. "Where is the translator?" shouted Marcus Vane, the lead attorney for the investor group. "That man is going to cancel everything, and our entire city will go bankrupt." "He's stuck in traffic in Staten Island, sir," the assistant replied nervously. "The accident on the Long Island Expressway blocked everything." Sheikh Jassim kept talking, now in a lower tone, but Chloe could sense the pain in his voice. He mentioned something about betrayal, about how he had trusted the Americans because his family had been helped by an American in the past. He spoke about lost honor, about how he would return home ashamed. "You don't understand the gravity of the situation," said Gregory, running his hands through his graying hair. "It's $2 billion in investments. It will be the largest urban revitalization project in New York. If he backs out now..." Chloe knew that project well. In the executive meetings she witnessed while serving coffee, she had heard the details. The Sheikh intended to build a luxury residential and commercial complex that would generate thousands of jobs. But she also knew something that left her conflicted. The project included the demolition of the neighborhood where her mother had lived for 40 years. Sheikh Jassim stopped talking and looked directly at her. His dark eyes seemed to see through her soul. He said something in Arabic, a direct question about why she was watching him so closely. Chloe lowered her head and went back to organizing the reception papers, but she felt the weight of his gaze upon her. "This situation is a disaster," muttered Arthur Penhaligon, the hotel manager, approaching her. 3 hours of meeting and we haven't been able to resolve anything. That man is completely beside himself." "Maybe he has reasons to be," Chloe replied softly, without looking up. "Reasons?" Arthur stared at her with disdain. "Do you know something about this, Chloe? Because from what I know, you're just a receptionist." The word "just" cut like a blade. Chloe Miller wasn't just a receptionist. She had a college degree in business administration, spoke 4 languages, and could hold any executive position if it weren't for the prejudices and the need to hide her true identity. The Sheikh rose abruptly from his chair, making the executives shrink back. He said something in a definitive tone, picked up his documents and walked toward the door. "He's leaving," shouted Marcus. "Do something!" "Your Excellency, please!" Gregory ran after him. "We can resolve this." But the Sheikh didn't stop. Chloe saw the desperation on the faces of the important men, the genuine anguish that went beyond million-dollar figures. She knew the project wasn't just about money. It was about hope for thousands of unemployed families, about the future of an entire region of the city. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. When the Sheikh passed by the front desk, he stopped again and stared at her. This time, he spoke directly to her in Arabic. "You understand what I'm saying, don't you?" Chloe's heart raced. The executives looked back and forth between the two of them, confused, not understanding what was happening. I... She hesitated, glancing quickly at Arthur, who was watching her with raised eyebrows. "Answer me," the Sheikh said, still in Arabic. "I can see in your eyes that you understand every word." Chloe took a deep breath. She thought of her sick mother in the neighborhood that would be demolished. She thought of her daughter, who dreamed of studying architecture. She thought of all the times she'd had to hide, pretend to be someone she wasn't. "Yes," she replied, finally, in perfect Arabic. "I understand." The silence that followed was absolute. The executive stared at her as if she had just materialized out of thin air. Arthur went pale. "What do you mean you speak Arabic?" he asked, incredulous. Sheikh Jassim smiled for the first time since arriving at the hotel. He approached the front desk and said, still in Arabic, "Finally, someone I can talk to. Tell me, my daughter, where are you from?" "My grandmother was from Aleppo," Chloe answered, feeling tears well up in her eyes. "She taught me when I was a child." "Aleppo," the Sheikh repeated with affection. "The city of roses. Your grandmother must have been a wise woman." The executives stepped closer, whispering among themselves, trying to understand what was happening. "What are you two talking about?" Gregory asked, desperate. The Sheikh looked at Chloe and asked, "Can you translate for these men? But I need you to be honest, completely honest." Chloe nodded and turned to the executives. "He wants me to translate the conversation, but he demands complete honesty." "Perfect," Marcus exclaimed. "Translate everything." "Wait a moment," Arthur interrupted, still in shock. "Chloe, since when do you speak Arabic? Why did you never mention this?" "Because you made it clear when you hired me that employees of Arab descent weren't welcome here," she replied, staring straight at him. Embarrassment overtook Arthur's face. The executives looked at him with disapproval. That was a misunderstanding," he stammered. The Sheikh observed the exchange in English and asked Chloe what was being discussed. She translated faithfully, including the comment about Arab employees. The Sheikh's face hardened. "This man," he pointed at Arthur, "does not inspire trust in me. If he discriminates against his own employee, how can I trust his business partners?" Chloe translated, and an awkward silence settled over the room. "Your Excellency," Gregory said, trying to salvage the situation, "Mr. Arthur doesn't represent our company. He only manages this hotel." "Then let's talk somewhere else," the Sheikh declared. "And I want this young woman to be our official translator. I don't trust anyone else here." The turn of events left everyone stunned. Arthur tried to protest. "Chloe is a hotel employee. She can't simply leave to—" "She can, and she will," the Sheikh interrupted in English, surprising everyone with his basic command of the language. "Or there's no deal." Chloe found herself at the center of a situation she never could have imagined. In a matter of minutes, she had gone from invisible receptionist to key player in a billion-dollar negotiation. "Do you accept?" Gregory asked her, completely ignoring Arthur. Before she could respond, the Sheikh addressed her in Arabic. "Before you accept, I need you to know something important. What I'm about to tell these men could affect many lives. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" "What are you talking about?" she asked, also in Arabic. "The documents they presented to me contain false information, altered numbers, promises that cannot be kept. I discovered this when my personal accountant reviewed everything last night." Chloe's heart raced. She looked at the executives who were anxiously awaiting a response. "Translate," Marcus demanded. "What is he saying?" He wants to know if he can trust you," Chloe lied, buying time to process what she had just heard. The Sheikh noticed her hesitation and continued. "I can see that you are a person of integrity. So I'm going to give you a choice. You can translate exactly what I say, exposing the truth, or you can keep protecting these men. But know that the decision you make will change many lives." "Whose lives?" she asked, her voice trembling. "The original project I proposed was different. I wanted to build affordable housing mixed with luxury residences, a model of social inclusion. But these men changed everything to maximize profits. The new project will drive thousands of poor families from their homes." Chloe felt the world spin. Her mother lived exactly in the area that would be affected. "My mother," she whispered in Arabic. "What is it?" asked the sheikh, noticing her distress. "My mother lives in the neighborhood that will be demolished." The sheikh studied her with compassionate eyes. "Then you understand what's at stake. The question is, will you choose the truth or the easy path?" The executives were growing impatient. "What have you two been talking about for so long?" Gregory asked. Chloe took a deep breath. She looked at each of the men before her, then at Arthur, who was watching her with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Finally, her eyes met the sheikh's. "I will translate everything," she said in Arabic, "exactly as you say it." "Are you sure?" he asked. "Because once we begin, there's no turning back." "I'm sure." The sheikh nodded and addressed the executives in Arabic, asking Chloe to translate. "He says he has discovered serious irregularities in the documents you presented," Chloe began, feeling her legs tremble. "What kind of irregularities?" Marcus asked, trying to maintain his composure. The sheikh continued speaking, and Chloe translated faithfully. "The acquisition values for the land are inflated by 40%. The number of affordable housing units has been reduced from 3,000 to 500. The execution timelines have been altered to benefit specific companies." Gregory's face went pale. That must be some mistake," he stammered. "It's no mistake," Chloe continued, translating the sheikh's words. "He has the original versions of the documents that were verbally agreed upon. He has recordings of the previous meetings." Marcus and Gregory exchanged nervous glances. "Your Excellency," Marcus said, attempting a forced smile. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding during the earlier translations. "There was no misunderstanding," the sheikh interrupted in English, surprising everyone once again. "I understand English better than you imagine." The confession sent the executives into a panic. They realized that all their side conversations, all their whispers, all their comments they thought were safe had been understood. "Then why did you pretend not to understand?" Gregory asked, his voice hoarse. "To find out the character of the people I was negotiating with," the sheikh replied, "and I discovered that I cannot trust you." The silence that followed was tense. Chloe could feel the anger growing among the executives, but she could also sense the fear. "What do you want?" asked Marcus finally. "I want honesty. I want the correct documents, and I want this project to truly benefit the people who need it, not just the wealthy investors." "That's impossible," protested Gregory. The costs are perfectly viable," the sheikh interrupted, "if you weren't trying to pocket 40% of the investment." The direct accusation made Gregory lose his composure. "You can't prove any of that." "I can and I will," the sheikh replied calmly. "I have documents, recordings, and witnesses." Chloe could see that the situation was escalating into a direct confrontation. The executives were cornered, and desperate men could take desperate measures. "Maybe we should take a break," she suggested, trying to calm things down. "No," the sheikh said firmly. "I've already wasted too much time with dishonest people." It was at that moment that Chloe's daughter, Maya, 17 years old, came running into the hotel lobby. Her eyes were red from crying, and she was visibly desperate. "Mom!" she shouted, ignoring all the formality of the setting. "Grandma got sick. She's in the hospital." Chloe felt her world collapse. Her mother, Martha, 68 years old, had heart problems and diabetes. Any crisis could be fatal. "What happened?" she asked, embracing her daughter. "She was watching TV when she passed out. The neighbor called an ambulance. Mom, the doctors need to talk to you right away." Without a second thought, Maya turned to the group of executives and the sheikh. "Please, I need to take my mother to the hospital now." To everyone's surprise, she spoke in fluent Arabic, unaware of the situation she was in. The sheikh stared at her with renewed attention. "You speak Arabic too?" he asked, intrigued. "Yes, sir," Maya replied, still in Arabic. "My great-grandmother taught us. It's a family tradition." "Where was your great-grandmother from?" "From Aleppo, sir. She was from the Al-Zahra family." The sheikh was silent for a long moment. His expression changed completely, shifting from surprise to something far deeper. "Al-Zahra," he repeated, as if recalling something distant. "Did you say Al-Zahra?" "Yes, sir," Maya confirmed, confused by his reaction. The Sheikh turned to Chloe with teary eyes. "Your grandmother. What was her name?" "Amira Al-Zahra," Chloe answered, not understanding why the question mattered at a moment of such desperation. "Amira, the daughter of Hassan Al-Zahra." "Yes, that was her. But sir, I need to get to the hospital." "Wait," the Sheikh said, gently holding her arm. "Hassan Al-Zahra saved my father's life during the war of 1967. Our family has a debt of honor to the Al-Zahra family. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The revelation left everyone stunned. The executives realized that the dynamic had completely shifted. This was no longer just a business negotiation, but something far deeper and more personal. "A debt of honor?" asked Chloe, torn between the urgency of getting to the hospital and her curiosity about this unexpected connection. "My father, Khalil Al-Fayed, was a military pilot. He was shot down over enemy territory and captured. Hassan Al-Zahra was a doctor at a civilian hospital and risked his own life to treat my father's injuries and help him escape. Thanks to him, my father survived and was able to return home, where I was born years later." "My great-grandmother never told that story," said Maya, fascinated despite her worry about her grandmother. "That was the kind of man Hassan was," the Sheikh continued. "He did good without expecting recognition. My father searched for him for decades to thank him personally, but lost contact when Omar emigrated to the United States." Chloe felt tears running down her face. The story the Sheikh was telling fit perfectly with the memories she had of her great-grandfather Omar, a gentle man who always said life was too precious to be wasted on hatred. "Mr. Jassim," she interrupted, "I need to go to the hospital. Can I continue this conversation later?" "No," he said, determined. "I'm coming with you. My family's debt of honor extends to the entire Al-Zahra family. Your mother will have the best medical treatment available." "That's not necessary, sir." "Yes, it is," the Sheikh interrupted. "Besides, I want to meet Layla Al-Zahra's daughter." The executives watched the scene in growing despair. Gregory tried to intervene. "Your Excellency, perhaps we could continue our meeting and resolve these matters later." "The meeting is over," declared the Sheikh, without even looking at him. "Until you bring honest documents and a project that truly benefits people, we have nothing more to discuss." "But sir," Marcus protested, "the deadlines, the investors, the entire city is waiting." "Then perhaps you should have thought about that before trying to deceive me." The Sheikh turned to Chloe and Maya. "Let's go to the hospital. My driver will take us." As they were leaving, Chloe heard Arthur whisper to the executives, "You lost $2 billion because of a receptionist." The words hurt her, but she had no time to process the pain. Her mother needed her. The private hospital they went to was one of the best in New York. The Sheikh spoke directly with the medical director, ensuring that Martha received absolute priority in care. During the 3 hours they waited for news, Jassim Al-Fayed told more stories about his father and Chloe's great-grandfather. He talked about how the Al-Fayed family built their fortune, always based on principles of honor and justice that Khalil had learned from Omar. "My father used to say that Omar taught him that true wealth is not in money, but in the ability to make a difference in people's lives," the Sheikh said. "That's why all my investments have a social component." "And that's why you were so upset about the changes to the project," Chloe added. "Exactly. Those men turned my dream of creating an inclusive housing model into just another real estate greed project." Maya, who had calmed down a bit, asked, "Are you really going to cancel everything because of their dishonesty?" "I will cancel if they don't completely change their approach," Jassim responded. "But I have a better idea." "What idea?" "Your mother will be my new local supervisor for the project. She will ensure everything is done according to my original values." "But she's just a receptionist," Maya protested, involuntarily echoing Arthur's words. "Maya," Chloe scolded. "Don't worry," Jassim said, smiling. "Your daughter is right. A receptionist wouldn't have the authority to supervise a $2 billion project. That's why I'm going to promote her to Director of Community Relations for my company in the United States." Chloe was speechless. In a single day, she had gone from a discriminated employee to an executive at a multinational company. "Mr. Jassim, I don't have the experience to—" "You have something much more valuable than experience," he interrupted. "You have integrity. And besides, your business administration degree will be very useful. How do you know about my education?" "I asked my assistant to look up your resume while we waited here. I imagine you were never able to fully use your degree because of the prejudice you faced." Chloe nodded, moved. The Sheikh understood her struggle in a way that few Americans could. When the doctor finally appeared with news about Martha, everyone stood up anxiously. "The patient had a spike in blood pressure, but she's stable now," the doctor informed them. "She'll need to stay hospitalized for a few days for monitoring, but there's no immediate risk." The relief was immense. Chloe hugged her daughter, crying with gratitude. "Can I see her?" she asked. "Yes, but only one visitor at a time for the first few days." Chloe walked into the room where her mother was resting, connected to cardiac monitors. Martha opened her eyes as her daughter approached. "Sweetheart," she said in a weak voice, "how did you get here so fast?" "An angel brought me, Mum." "An angel?" Chloe briefly told her about the day's events, about the connection between the Sheikh and the Al-Zahra family. Martha listened with growing astonishment. "Omar always used to say that good deeds come back to bless future generations," she murmured. "I never imagined it would be so direct." "Mum, there's something I need to tell you. The Sheikh's project. It's going to affect our neighborhood." Martha's face grew sad. "Are we going to have to move?" "I don't know yet. He said he's going to change the original plan, but I don't know exactly how." "Sweetheart, whatever his decision is, we'll accept it. A man who honors his father's debts is a man of character. Trust him." When Chloe returned to the waiting room, she found Jassim talking seriously with Maya. "What were you two talking about?" she asked. "About her future," Jassim replied. "Maya told me she wants to study architecture." "It's my dream," the teenager confirmed. "I want to design beautiful, affordable homes for poor people." "Perfect," said Jassim, "because I just approved a full scholarship for her at the best architecture university in the country." Chloe was stunned. "Mr. Jassim, this is too much. We can't accept—" "It's not charity," he interrupted. "It's an investment. I'm going to need young, idealistic architects for my future social projects." "But why are you doing all of this for us?" Jassim was silent for a moment, looking out the hospital window. "When I was a child, my father used to tell me the story of Omar al-Zahra every night before bed. He said that one day I would have the chance to repay his kindness. For decades, I searched for his family. When I gave up finding them, I thought the debt would die with me. Discovering you today, it's as if fate itself had intervened. And if my mother hadn't gotten sick, if Maya hadn't shown up at the hotel speaking Arabic," Chloe asked. "But she did show up," Jassim replied with a smile. "Sometimes the universe conspires to make the right things happen." The next day, they returned to the Grand Roosevelt for a new meeting with the executives. This time, Chloe wasn't behind the reception desk. She was seated at the main table, as the official representative of Sheikh Jassim. The dynamic had changed completely. Gregory and Marcus arrived with new documents, revised and honest. Their attitude was far more respectful and humble. "We've completely reworked the project," Gregory began. "We kept the original 3,000 affordable housing units." "And the costs?" Chloe asked, stepping into her new role with ease. "They've been adjusted to reflect the real expenses," Marcus replied. "No more inflated pricing." Jassim analyzed the documents carefully, asking pointed questions that demonstrated deep knowledge of the American real estate market. Chloe translated when necessary, but noticed that the Sheikh understood English much better than he had initially let on. "There's still one problem," said Jassim. "The plan calls for the demolition of the neighborhood where Chloe's mother lives." "Sir," Chloe interjected, "you don't need to change the project because of my family. We can move." "It's not just about your family," Jassim replied. "If we're truly going to create an inclusive project, we can't just push out the people who already live in the area." "But how?" asked Gregory. "The land is limited." Jassim smiled and turned to Chloe. "This is where your daughter comes in. Maya, tell them your idea. The teenager, who had been silently following the meeting, stood up nervously. Well, I thought that instead of demolishing the old houses, we could restore them and integrate them into the new project. Create a mixed neighborhood where modern buildings coexist with preserved historic architecture. Is that economically viable? Asked Marcus, intrigued. More viable than you think, Jassim replied. And it also creates a unique selling point in the market. A residential complex that preserves history and builds the future. The proposal excited even the executives. Over the following hours, they worked together, refining the concept. Chloe found that her experience as a resident of the neighborhood was valuable in understanding the community's real needs. When the meeting ended, everyone was satisfied with the outcome. The project had transformed into something far more ambitious and socially responsible. There's one last matter, said Jassim, addressing Arthur, who had remained quiet throughout the meeting. Yes, sir, the manager replied nervously. Chloe no longer works for this hotel. She will be an employee of my company. But I want you to think about the opportunities you may have lost by underestimating people. Arthur lowered his head, clearly embarrassed. I understand, sir. I hope you truly do, and I hope this changes the way you treat all your employees from now on. In the months that followed, the transformation was remarkable. Chloe took on her new role with a dedication and competence that surprised even Jassim. She became the bridge between the company and the local community, ensuring that promises were kept. Maya began her architecture studies and was already working on pilot projects for the residential complex. Her youthful, idealistic vision brought innovative solutions that impressed the senior architects. Martha made a full recovery and became something of an ambassador for the project in the community. Her standing in the neighborhood helped convince other residents that the changes would be beneficial. The most impressive part was how honesty transformed the relationship between everyone involved. Gregory and Marcus, initially reluctant about the changes, discovered that ethical projects could be even more profitable in the long run, generating fewer conflicts and greater client satisfaction. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. But not everything was easy. During the implementation phase, challenges arose that tested everyone's determination. The first major obstacle came from other investors in the area who didn't like seeing a socially inclusive project near their luxury properties. They launched a smear campaign, trying to convince the city government to block the construction permits. They're saying our project will devalue the area, Chloe told Jassim during an emergency meeting. And what arguments are they using? They say mixing different social classes creates urban instability, that wealthy families won't want to live near poor people. Jassim shook his head, disappointed but not surprised. It's the same prejudice you faced at the hotel, just on a larger scale. How do we fight this? With facts. Maya, have you finished the study on similar projects in other countries? Yes, replied the young woman, now in her second year of architecture. I have data from 15 cities that implemented similar concepts. In all cases, the real estate appreciation was greater than in traditional projects. Perfect. Chloe, organize a public presentation. We're going to show the entire city that social inclusion isn't charity, it's economic intelligence. The presentation was scheduled for the following week at New York's Convention Center. Chloe worked tirelessly to ensure that every aspect of the project was clearly explained. On the day of the presentation, the auditorium was packed. There were residents from the neighborhood, investors from the region, city officials, journalists and curious onlookers. The tension in the air was palpable. Jassim began the presentation by talking about his international experience with similar projects. His words were measured and convincing, backed by concrete data on real estate appreciation and social development. Maya presented the architectural aspects, showing how preserving the historic homes would create a unique and valuable environment. Her drawings and models impressed the audience. Chloe spoke last, representing the voice of the community. Her presentation was the most moving because she spoke not only as an executive, but as a daughter of the neighborhood that would be transformed. "Many of you know me," she began, looking directly at the neighbors in the audience. "I'm Mrs. Martha Miller's Chloe, the one who worked at the hotel front desk. I'm here today not because I've become important, but because someone recognized that every person has the potential to contribute." Her words touched the hearts of the audience. When she finished talking about how the project would preserve the essence of the neighborhood while offering new opportunities, the applause was long and sincere. During the question and answer session, tough questions came up. One investor asked, "How can you guarantee there won't be conflicts between residents of different social classes?" Chloe answered, "The same way we ensure coexistence in any community, with respect, dialogue, and equal opportunities for everyone. The problem isn't social difference, it's the lack of opportunity to overcome it." Another question came from a long-time resident. "What if the project fails? What if the promised appreciation doesn't happen?" Jassim answered personally, "I'll sign a contract guaranteeing the buyback of all properties at the minimum promised value if the project doesn't achieve its projected results within 5 years. I'm putting my personal fortune up as collateral." The statement caused surprised murmurs throughout the audience. No one expected such a firm commitment. By the end of the presentation, most of the audience was convinced. Even some of the initial opponents admitted that the project seemed well-founded, but the most important victory happened behind the scenes. Arthur Penhaligon approached Chloe after the presentation. "Chloe, I wanted to apologize," he said, visibly embarrassed. "You made me rethink a lot of things about how I judge people." "You don't need to apologize, Arthur. We all have prejudices to overcome." "Would you have dinner with me and my wife sometime? I'd like her to meet the woman who taught me about humility." Chloe smiled and accepted the invitation. It was a small gesture, but it symbolized a great change. The following months brought new challenges. During the excavations for the foundations, archaeological artifacts were discovered that could delay the project for years. "They're fragments of indigenous pottery," explained the lead archaeologist, "probably from an ancient Tupi settlement." The discovery sparked controversy. Some wanted the project cancelled to preserve the archaeological site. Others argued that the artifacts should be removed quickly to avoid delaying construction. Jassim called a meeting with all stakeholders, archaeologists, indigenous representatives, local residents, investors, and authorities. "I believe this is yet another sign that we're on the right track," he said during the meeting. "Our proposal has always been to preserve history while building the future. Now we have the chance to preserve even older history." "What are you proposing?" asked the archaeologist. "We're going to incorporate the archaeological site into the project. We'll create a community museum where the artifacts will be preserved and displayed. It will be another selling point for our residential complex." The proposal pleased nearly everyone. The archaeologists would have the resources for a proper study. The indigenous representatives would have their roots honored. The residents would have a cultural center right in their own neighborhood. Maya was assigned to work with the archaeologists on the museum's design. It was a unique opportunity for an architecture student. "I'm nervous," she confessed to Chloe. "It's a lot of responsibility." "You'll do great," her mother encouraged. "Remember that nervousness means you care, and when we care, we always give our best." The advice proved to be spot on. The design Maya created for the museum was praised by both the archaeologists and the indigenous representatives. She managed to create a space that was both modern and respectful of ancient traditions. Meanwhile, Chloe faced her own challenges. As Director of Community Relations, she had to mediate conflicts between different interest groups. Some long-time residents resisted the changes. Some future residents had unrealistic expectations about the project. The hardest conflict arose when a family refused to sell their property for the project. It was a century-old house where 3 generations had lived. "We won't sell for any price," declared Mrs. Eleanor, the family matriarch. "This house holds our family's soul." Chloe understood the elderly woman's feelings perfectly. If it were her own house, she might have reacted the same way. "Mrs. Eleanor," she said during a visit to the family, "what if we didn't have to demolish your house?" "What do you mean?" "What if we incorporated your house into the project exactly as it is, turned it into the neighborhood's community center? The proposal surprised the family. Mrs. Eleanor remained silent for long moments, processing the idea. Would the house still be ours? Technically, it would be owned by the condominium, but your family would have lifetime usage rights, and on top of that you'd be responsible for preserving the neighborhood's historical memory. And our children and grandchildren? They'd have priority to work at the community center. It would be a way to keep the family connected to the house without blocking the project's development. Mrs. Eleanor talked with her family for a week before giving her answer. When she finally accepted the proposal, it came with one condition. I want you to promise that our history won't be forgotten. I promise, Chloe replied, understanding the weight of those words. The Eleanor family house became the symbol of the project. Its preservation showed that it was possible to grow without forgetting the past. As construction progressed, practical problems began to emerge that tested everyone's creativity. The main challenge was ensuring that social differences didn't create tensions in daily life. Jassim proposed an innovative solution. All common areas would be free for all residents, regardless of how much they paid for their units. Pool, gym, party hall, sports courts, everything would be shared equally. But how do we fund that? Asked Gregory. The maintenance costs will be enormous. With creativity, Chloe replied. The common areas will also be open to the outside community for a daily fee. The extra income will help subsidize the costs for residents. The idea worked better than they expected. The complex became a meeting point for the entire region, not just for residents. During this phase, Chloe noticed she was changing as a person. The responsibility of her position had made her more confident and articulate. Maya was also transforming, gaining maturity through her architectural projects. Sometimes I can't believe how much our lives have changed, Maya commented during a family dinner. Life hasn't changed, corrected Martha, now fully recovered. You just found the courage to be who you always were. What do you mean, Grandma? Your mother was always smart and capable. She just never had the chance to show it. You were always creative and determined. You just needed a project worthy of your talent. The matriarch's words summed up perfectly what had happened. It wasn't just a story of luck or coincidence. It was a story of people finding their true capabilities when given real opportunities. The complex's grand opening was scheduled for November, almost 2 years after that dramatic day at the hotel. The ceremony would be a milestone, not just for the project, but for the entire city. In the weeks leading up to the inauguration, the final obstacles emerged. A group of rival investors tried to create last-minute legal problems, questioning permits and documents. They're desperate because our project is making theirs look obsolete, Jassim explained during a crisis meeting. What can we do? Asked Chloe. Total transparency. Let's open all our documents for public audit. If we have nothing to hide, we don't need to fear an investigation. The strategy worked. The audit not only confirmed the legality of everything, but also highlighted the exceptional quality of the project's management. Finally, the inauguration day arrived. The complex was beautiful, seamlessly integrating modern and historic architecture. The archaeological museum was ready, with exhibits that told the region's history from pre-Columbian times to the present day. The ceremony began with Jassim giving a speech about the importance of social inclusion in urban development. His words were translated by Chloe, who was now fluent in business Arabic in addition to the dialect she had learned from her grandmother. Maya presented the museum, explaining how each architectural element respected both indigenous traditions and contemporary needs. Her presentation was so impressive that several architecture firms approached her offering internships. But the most moving moment was when Mrs. Eleanor cut the inaugural ribbon of the community center installed in her old house. At 82 years old, she represented the bridge between the neighborhood's past and future. This house has seen 3 generations of my family grow up, she said, her voice steady despite the emotion. Now it will see many generations of several families grow together. After the official ceremony, there was a community party that lasted until late. Residents from all social classes celebrated together. Children played in the new recreation areas, and teenagers explored the technology center that had been installed. Chloe watched everything from a corner, still processing the magnitude of the transformation. In less than 2 years, she had gone from discriminated receptionist to respected executive. Her daughter had a promising career ahead. Her mother lived in a thriving, welcoming community. "Happy with the result?" Jassim asked, approaching her. "More than happy, impressed. You should be proud. This project was only possible because of your courage to tell the truth that day." "And if I hadn't spoken up? What if I had kept pretending I didn't understand Arabic?" Jassim smiled. "But you did speak, and that choice changed thousands of lives." "Including yours?" asked Chloe, half joking. "Especially mine. I'd been doing business for decades, but this was the first project that truly made sense. That honored my father's memory and the teachings he received from your great-grandfather." They stayed silent for a few minutes, watching the celebration around them. "What comes next?" asked Chloe. "Now we replicate this model in other cities. I have invitations from mayors in Chicago, Atlanta, and Miami. They all want similar projects." "And me? You'll be the national director of the program. Maya can work as a junior architect on the new projects once she graduates." The offer was exciting and daunting at the same time. It would mean traveling across the country, facing new challenges, leaving the comfort zone they had built. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But remember that great opportunities rarely wait for our insecurities." The following week, while reviewing the proposal, Chloe received an unexpected visit. Arthur Penhaligon showed up at her new office with a humble expression she had never seen on him before. "I came to thank you," he said without beating around the bush. "Thank me for what?" "For teaching me a lesson that changed my life. After what happened, I completely rethought how I managed the hotel. I implemented an internal development program that has already promoted 5 employees to executive positions." "That's wonderful, Arthur. One of those promoted was Susan from housekeeping. She's now a quality supervisor. We discovered she has a graduate degree in hospitality, but she'd never had the opportunity to grow." Chloe smiled. It was exactly the kind of change she'd hoped to see. "There's something else," Arthur continued. "Sheikh Jassim recommended our hotel to several international partners. Our reservations have gone up 40%. "I'm glad to hear that. The project's reputation for honesty extended to the hotel. People trust us because they trust him, and they trust him because they trust you." It was a chain of trust Chloe hadn't foreseen, but it made perfect sense. A few days later, she made her decision about the national proposal. She accepted, but with one condition. The first project would be in Chicago, in Astoria, where her family had first settled when they emigrated from Syria. "I want to take this model to where my story began," she explained to Jassim. "Perfect choice," he agreed. "It will be a way to honor not only your great-grandfather Omar, but all the immigrants who built their lives in the United States." The Chicago project was even more ambitious. Beyond the housing and social components, it would include a research center on Arab immigration to the United States. Maya, now in her 3rd year of architecture, would be responsible for the center's design. "It's scary," she confessed to her mother. "What if I can't create something worthy of how important this project is?" "Then you'll learn and you'll improve," Chloe replied. "What matters isn't never failing, it's never stopping trying." The advice echoed the words Jassim had given her that first day at the hospital. It was wisdom passed down through generations, connecting the present to the past and the future. Construction in Chicago began the following year. The project drew international attention, with delegations from several countries visiting to study replicating the model. During one of those visits, a group of investors from Lebanon came. Among them was an elderly man who introduced himself as Samir al-Rashid, Jassim's cousin. "I've heard many stories about this Brazilian family who saved our cousin," he said, addressing Chloe in Arabic. "Jassim saved our family, not the other way around," she replied. "No, my daughter. You saved much more than a business. You saved our family's honor. Jassim tells me this project reconnected him with the values our grandfather taught him. It was remarkable how a single decision, the decision to tell the truth that day at the hotel, had created ripples that spread far beyond what Chloe could have imagined. The Chicago project was inaugurated in grand style, with national and international authorities in attendance. Maya was invited to speak about inclusive architecture at a UN conference on urban development. 3 years ago, I was just a teenager dreaming of building beautiful homes, she said during her talk. Today I understand that architecture is not just about building spaces, but about building communities. Her words were quoted in newspapers around the world. Job offers came from various parts of the globe, but she chose to keep working with the family in the United States. During the inauguration party in Chicago, Jassim made an announcement that surprised everyone. "This will be my last project as CEO of the company. I'm retiring to take care of my family. Chloe Miller will take over general management of all operations in the United States." The announcement caused a stir. Chloe had not been consulted beforehand about this decision. "Jassim," she called him aside, "I wasn't prepared for this." "No one is ever prepared for great responsibilities," he replied, "but you've already proven you're capable of handling them. What if I fail? Then you'll learn from failure and become even better. That's how character is built." The transition of power happened gradually over the following months. Jassim remained as a consultant, but Chloe made all operational decisions. Her first major decision was to establish a scholarship program for young people from underserved communities interested in architecture and civil engineering. The program would be funded by a percentage of the profits from all projects. "Why this priority?" asked a journalist during an interview. "Because talent exists in every social class," replied Chloe. "The difference is opportunity. If we want to build a better country, we need to ensure that all talented children have a chance to develop their potential." The program was an immense success. In the first year, 100 full scholarships were awarded. Maya took over coordination of the program, applying the pedagogical knowledge she was developing in her studies. 2 years later, when Chloe marked 5 years since that fateful day at the hotel, she organized a special meeting. She invited all the people who had been important on the journey: Jassim, Maya, Martha, Mrs. Eleanor, Arthur, and even Gregory and Marcus. "Do you remember how it all started?" she asked, addressing the group gathered in the main hall of the first complex built. "How could we forget?" laughed Arthur. "I almost fired the person who would become my boss." "And we almost lost the biggest project of our lives out of stubbornness," added Gregory. "The important thing," said Jassim, "is that we all learned something valuable. I learned that honesty generates trust, and trust generates prosperity for everyone." "I learned that youth with purpose can move mountains," said Maya, now graduated and nationally recognized. "And I learned that we should never underestimate people's potential," concluded Chloe. Martha, now 73 but still sharp and active, asked to speak. "I want to tell you a story I've never told you. My mother, Layla, before she passed, told me something about the man who saved my father. She said he had predicted that his kindness would come back to bless our family, but in a way we couldn't imagine." "She really said that?" asked Chloe, moved. "Yes, she did. And she added that our family would have the responsibility to carry on that kindness for other people." "I think we've fulfilled that responsibility," said Jassim, looking around at everyone present. "We haven't fulfilled it," corrected Chloe. "We're fulfilling it. It's a commitment that passes from generation to generation." The meeting ended with everyone pledging to continue working together on new projects. There were plans for expansion into other Latin American countries and even into some Arab countries that had shown interest in the American model. The following week, Chloe received a phone call that would once again change the course of her life. It was from the US government, inviting her to take on an advisory role in national housing policy. "It's an opportunity to influence public policy on a national scale," the secretary explained during the call. "Your social inclusion model caught the president's attention." "May I think it over?" "Of course. But I'd like you to know that your appointment has unanimous support from all political parties. It's rare to see consensus on housing issues." Chloe discussed the proposal with Jassim and Maya. Opinions were divided. "It's a unique chance to expand the impact of your work," Jassim argued. "Public policy can reach millions of people at once." "But it can also be frustrating," Maya countered. "Politics is slower and more complicated than the private sector." "Maybe that's exactly why they need someone like me," Chloe reflected. "Someone who comes from practice, not theory." After 2 weeks of reflection, she accepted the position, but negotiated a special arrangement. She would work part-time in the government advisory role and part-time at the company, ensuring continuity for ongoing projects. Her first initiative in government was proposing a national housing inclusion law, establishing that all new residential developments above a certain size must include a minimum percentage of affordable housing units. "The proposal is revolutionary," commented a senator during the public hearing. "But how can we ensure it doesn't make projects economically unfeasible?" "The same way we've ensured it in our projects," Chloe replied. "With smart planning and appropriate tax incentives, the government saves on social housing and the private sector gains consumer market and tax benefits." The proposal sparked intense debates in Congress, but ended up being approved with majority support. It was considered one of the most important housing laws of the decade. Over the following years, Chloe became a national reference in inclusive housing policy. She received several international awards and was invited to speak at conferences around the world. Maya, now 25, had become one of the country's most respected architects. Her projects were studied in universities and replicated in several cities. Jassim, retired but still active as a consultant, divided his time between the United States and the Middle East, helping to replicate the American model in other countries. On one of these trips, he brought news that moved the entire family. "I found records about Omar al-Zahra in the military archives," he told them during a visit. "He didn't just save my father. He saved 17 soldiers throughout the war." 17, repeated Martha, impressed. 17 men who returned home, started families, had children and grandchildren. Omar al-Zahra is the symbolic grandfather of hundreds of people who exist today because he chose to save lives instead of ignoring suffering. The revelation gave a new dimension to the family's legacy. It wasn't just an isolated good deed, but a pattern of behavior that had saved many lives. "Now I understand why our family feels this responsibility to help others," said Chloe. "It's in our DNA." During a special ceremony, Jassim presented the family with a replica of the documents he had found about Omar. It was a tangible way to connect the present to the past. "These documents will be kept in the museum of the first complex," Chloe decided, "so that future generations understand that small acts of kindness can change the world." The ceremony took place on the 10th anniversary of the first project. The complex had become a model of sustainable urban development, visited by scholars from all over the world. During the celebration, Mrs. Eleanor, now 92 years old but still lucid, gave a speech that moved the entire audience. "When you came to ask me to sell my house, I thought it was the end of our story in this place. Today I realize it was only the beginning of a much bigger story. My house wasn't demolished, it was multiplied. Now hundreds of families have homes where there used to be only ours." Her words perfectly summarized the spirit of the project, multiplying opportunities instead of concentrating them. After the ceremony, Chloe received a phone call that left her ecstatic. It was from Geneva, from the UN, inviting her to take a position in the United Nations Urban Development Agency. "It would be a 3-year commitment," the UN official explained. "You would work on developing housing policies for developing countries." "Would that mean moving to Switzerland?" "Temporarily, yes, but you would have the autonomy to travel and implement projects in several countries." Chloe felt torn. It was the ultimate recognition of her work, but it would mean leaving the United States precisely when her projects were well established. She talked it over with her family during Sunday dinner, a tradition they had kept religiously for 10 years. "It's a unique opportunity, Mum," said Maya. "You can take the American model to countries that really need it. But who's going to take care of the projects here?" "I will," Maya answered with conviction. "I'm ready to take on that responsibility." "And I'll be here to support her," added Jassim. "My retirement can wait a few more years." Martha, now the matriarch of the family, had the final word. "Daughter, your great-grandfather Omar never thought twice before helping someone in need. If there are people in the world who need your help, you should go." The decision was made that very night. Chloe would accept the UN position, but would maintain ties with the American projects through remote consulting. In the months that followed, she prepared intensively for her new role. She studied urban development in African and Asian countries, learned French to communicate better in Geneva, and worked with Maya on the transition of responsibilities. The day of her departure was emotional. Hundreds of people gathered at the airport to say goodbye to her, residents of the complexes she had helped build, co-workers, government authorities, and of course, the whole family. "This isn't a goodbye," she said during her farewell speech. "It's a see you later. The United States will always be my home, and you will always be my family." Jassim hugged her last, whispering in Arabic, Omar al-Zahra would be proud to see how his kindness multiplied through the generations. In Geneva, Chloe quickly adapted to her new role. Her practical experience with inclusive housing development set her apart from the other UN officials who often had only theoretical knowledge. Her first major project was in Senegal, where she applied an adapted version of the American model in a slum in Dakar. The success was so great that other African countries requested similar projects. During a conference in Nairobi, she met a Kenyan architect named Amara, who reminded her a lot of Maya in her early career years, young, idealistic, and determined to make a difference. "Can I work with you on some projects?" Amara asked after Chloe's lecture. "You certainly can. But with one condition, that you teach me about the cultural specificities of African architecture. My model is American, but it needs to be adapted for each culture." The partnership with Amara was fundamental to the success of the African projects. She brought the local knowledge that Chloe needed to adapt her ideas to the specific realities of each country. During her 3 years at the UN, Chloe supervised projects in 15 different countries. Each one brought unique learnings that she shared with the team back in the United States through weekly video conferences. Maya, during this period, exceeded all expectations in managing the American projects. She not only maintained the quality of the ongoing work, but also started 3 new complexes in different cities. "I'm proud of you," Chloe said during one of those video conferences. "You've become the leader I always knew you could be." "I learned from the best teacher," Maya replied, smiling. Chloe's time at the UN ended with her receiving the Global Award for Sustainable Urban Development, an honor that few Americans had achieved. In her acceptance speech, she spoke about the importance of remembering one's roots. "This award is not mine. It belongs to everyone who believed in the transformative power of social inclusion. It belongs to my great-grandfather Omar, who taught me that saving one life is saving all of humanity. It belongs to Sheikh Jassim, who showed that business can be prosperous and ethical at the same time. And it belongs to my daughter Maya, who proved that the new generation can be even better than the previous one." When she returned to the United States, Chloe found a different country. Her projects had influenced public policy on a national scale, and the housing inclusion model was being adopted in several cities. The reception at the airport was even bigger than the farewell. Thousands of people gathered to celebrate her return. The President of the United States was present, as were governors and mayors from various cities where similar projects had been implemented. "Welcome back home," said Jassim, now with completely white hair, but still with the same warm smile. "It's good to be home," she replied, emotional. Over the following weeks, Chloe gradually reintegrated into her activities in the United States. She visited all the old and new projects, impressed by the evolution that had taken place during her absence. The first complex, now 15 years old, had become a model of urban sustainability. The children who had grown up there were graduating from universities and returning to work in their own community. "It's proof that social inclusion works," Maya commented during a visit to the site. "These people didn't need to leave the community to prosper. Prosperity came to them. It was exactly what Chloe had dreamed of when it all began. Not just building houses, but building opportunities." During a meeting with the entire team, she announced her plans for the next phase. "We're going to create an international foundation to replicate our model on a global scale. My experience at the UN showed me that there is worldwide demand for this type of project." "What kind of structure are you thinking about?" Jassim asked. "A network of local partnerships. Instead of imposing our model, we'll adapt it to the specifics of each country. Each project will be a collaboration between American expertise and local knowledge." The proposal excited the entire team. Maya volunteered to lead the international architectural design area. Jassim agreed to be the chairman of the foundation. In the following years, the Omar Al-Zahra Foundation, a name chosen in honor of Chloe's great-grandfather, became a world reference in inclusive housing development. Projects were implemented in 23 countries, directly benefiting more than 100,000 families. Indirectly, the public policy changes influenced by the foundation benefited millions of people. During a special ceremony for the 20th anniversary of the first American project, Chloe gave an emotional reflection on everything that had been accomplished. When I decided to speak Arabic that day at the hotel, I never imagined I was beginning a journey that would change not only my life, but the lives of so many people around the world. "And it's not over yet," said Maya, now executive director of the foundation. "The next generation is already on its way." She was referring to the children of the first residents of the housing complexes, who were now growing up and showing interest in architecture and urban development. "That's true," agreed Jassim. "The legacy perpetuates itself naturally." Martha, now 85 years old and still present at every important celebration, asked to speak. "I want you all to remember one important thing. This all began with a simple choice: telling the truth. Chloe could have kept pretending she didn't understand Arabic, and none of this would have happened." "That's an important lesson," agreed Chloe. "Small decisions can have enormous consequences. The choice between honesty and convenience, between courage and fear, between including and excluding. And the choice to pass on kindness rather than just keeping it for yourself," added Jassim. During the speeches that night, ambitious new projects were announced: a public university of architecture and engineering, a research center for sustainable urban development, and an international exchange program for young professionals. "The future is in the hands of the next generation," said Chloe in her final speech. "Our responsibility now is to make sure they have the tools they need to keep building a more just and inclusive world." The celebration lasted until dawn, with residents of all ages celebrating together. Children played with the very people who had been considered socially incompatible 20 years earlier. As the sun rose over the first complex ever built, Chloe stood on the balcony of the old community center, watching life wake up around her. Maya joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "What are you thinking about, Mom?" "I'm thinking about how fear almost kept me from living all of this." "Fear of what?" "Fear of revealing who I really was. Fear of losing my job. Fear of not being accepted. If I had given in to fear that day..." "But you didn't. And that made all the difference." They stood in silence for a few minutes, watching the community wake up. Children running off to school, adults heading to work, seniors gathering in the small park to chat. "You know what I'm most proud of?" said Chloe. "What?" "That we didn't need to change people. We just created the conditions for them to show the best of themselves." "That's a lesson I'll carry into all my projects," promised Maya. When Jassim arrived for the foundation's morning meeting, he found mother and daughter still on the balcony, planning their next steps. "Good morning, founders," he greeted them with good humor. "Good morning, Chairman," replied Chloe, laughing. "What were you two talking about?" "About the future," said Maya, "and about how small choices can change the world." "Ah, that's true. By the way, I got an interesting phone call last night." "From who?" "From Omar Al-Zahra's son." Chloe nearly dropped her coffee cup. "What do you mean, my great-grandfather's son? He had other children besides my grandmother." "He did. A son who stayed in Syria. Our researchers found him while documenting the family history. He's 93 years old and wants to meet the American side of the family." The news left Chloe speechless. For decades, she had believed her Syrian lineage ran only through her grandmother, Layla. Does he know about our work?" "He does, and he's very proud. He said he always knew his father's kindness would bear extraordinary fruit." "When can we meet him?" "He wants to come to the United States next month. He's planning the trip with his grandchildren." The prospect of meeting Syrian family she never knew existed deeply moved Chloe. It was as if the circle were closing perfectly. The following month, when Malik Al-Zahra arrived at New York's airport, the emotion was indescribable. At 93, he was an older version of how Chloe imagined her great-grandfather Omar would have been. "You look just like my sister Layla when she was young," he said in Arabic, embracing her with tears in his eyes. "And you look just like the description she gave of her father," Chloe replied, also crying. The reunion was documented by the foundation and became one of the most moving moments in the organization's history. During Malik's stay in the United States, he visited every project and met all the important people in the family's journey. His wisdom and historical perspective enriched the foundation's work even further. "My father always said that kindness is like a seed," he told them during a talk at the first complex. "It can take decades to sprout, but when it does, it produces a tree that feeds entire generations." "That's exactly what happened with us," agreed Jassim. "And what will keep happening," added Maya. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this story and where you're watching us from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe Chloe made all the right decisions throughout her journey? We'd love to read your opinions. Thank you so much for keeping us company. Don't forget to leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional stories like this one.